Alrighty, and just to give everyone a heads up, I'm going to mute everybody and then unmute Jeff and Grant so they have the floor essentially. Just so you know that.
It's like my worst flight attendant nightmare.
Oh, we don't even have.
Unless that's your crying baby, Ryan. You probably can't mute yourself.
I muted myself, sorry. Here, everybody. All right, guys. Well, I think we'll just get going here. We got a good crew right now. There might be more people popping in. Welcome, Grant and Jeff from Local Relic.
Yep. Cheers.
When do you guys? When does the newness start?
What newness?
What you had on the wall?
I don't even know what you're talking about. It's
if you want to or not.
No, it's all good. No, so Ryan did a good job supporting local and came out and bought beers from us tonight, and so we got a sneak peek. Most of you know Melissa, my wife. She has taken some fondness to the saying that only a fool would let a good pandemic go to waste. And so we are trying to leverage this forced opportunity to figure out how to do the best good that we can with space. So we're doing some projects that we've wanted to get done for a while, some new paints, obviously some cleaning and that kind of stuff. We are refreshing the brand of Local Relic. Ryan has a picture on his phone. I don't even think, I might have a picture on my phone of it. But yeah, so we'll roll the refreshed branding when we reopen. We have a wine bar that's opening in this space that will also launch when we reopen. Second food concept will open in the space. So, the vision for that room for a long time has been kind of food hall-esque. Denver has some really cool spaces like that. The Springs really doesn't yet, and so we're excited to be the first. It has been the vision from the very beginning to move that direction. It took a little bit longer than we wanted to, but we're, like I said, we're making use of this opportunity to try to turn it into something cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think it's weird.
It's exciting.
I think it's weird to have all of you guys muted. I feel like I'm talking into space. I would propose, Ryan, if everybody pledges to be well behaved, we unmute them and then mute them selectively as we need to.
Oh, that's a horrible idea. Horrible.
Since we have a pretty good crew, I will do that. If I see a couple people come in here that I know are mic hoggers, I will definitely mute them as soon as they get in here.
Is that why Dev and Terry are still muted?
Yeah, no, Dev. I tried to unmute Dev, and it wouldn't unmute.
I stayed muted because apparently I'm a troublemaker.
We just didn't want to background there.
I sound like a robot, so.
Hey Jeff, I have a procedural question for you that I was going to ask Grant earlier, but he said I had to ask you.
Okay, I'll probably tell you to ask Grant. It'll be one of those like ask your mother, ask your father kind of things, but I'll take a crack at it.
Probably. Which one of you will let me go outside? No, I know you guys are doing deliveries. Do you deliver up to Monument? Because I've been sorely tempted to order a couple bottles, but I didn't know if you guys were delivering up here.
Yes, I will deliver to you, and I'll be even less grumpy about it if you can get a bunch of friends in your neighborhood to all, or I say neighborhood loosely, anywhere on the north side to order at the same time. Then I can do a bunch of deliveries all at once. But yes, I would happily deliver.
Direct message me. I'm in on that. I'm in Palmer Lake.
Sweet.
We're making it happen.
Awesome. And Dev, same thing goes for you. If you want to, we've been toying around with the idea of doing like 3 or 4 locations in Denver, sort of an intentional drop at a couple different places. So
Okay.
I don't know Denver that well, or know where the right neighborhoods would be. But we can talk offline later about that. But I'd love to get some beer up to your neck of the woods too.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I'm so sad because Fixie has bottles for me, and I'm like, well, this is useless.
And he would be a great bike messenger if you lived closer.
I know, right? He actually one time for Josh's 40th, we helped surprise party, and Fixie apologized for being late because he biked all the way from Colorado Springs all the way to Littleton for his party, and he apologized for being late. And I'm like, who are you? Why are you apologizing?
Yeah, that sounds like him.
Yep. If you guys don't know Fixie Dave, he's incredible, and he sometimes rides around Colorado Springs wearing a purple gorilla suit on his bike, and he's just good people.
So it looks like we got a couple questions here that people actually put in ahead of time, which is awesome.
Sweet.
One of the things Brianna asked, this is probably Brianna from Lost Friend, does your historic building influence how you present your brand?
So Grant, I'm just going to I'll jump in and answer questions that are mine, and you jump in and answer questions that are yours. But okay. As you know, Melissa says, I have a lot of words and I'm not afraid to use them. So at whatever point you want to jump in, jump in. So did it affect how we present our brand? I guess maybe a tiny bit, but really no. It's probably ballsy to open a brewery called Local Relic without an actual tasting room location set, because we can't, nothing against all of the fine establishments that find themselves in less historic spaces, but it really felt to us with a brand like Local Relic that we needed to be in a place that felt appropriate to the brand. And because we opened at wholesale first, we knew that we had the freedom to take our time in developing and really finding the right spot. And so, yeah, I mean, we eventually ended up at a place where I think the brand and the space jive really well, but that's not because the two of them were far apart initially. The brand came first, and when we saw the space, it just felt right. Hey, Hannigan, you're still muted.
Yeah,
there you go.
Sorry, it's because I've got a wailing baby in the background, so I don't want that to.
Hashtag dad life.
Yep, exactly. So, you sort of have to thank Green Man for tanking, so you have that nice spot.
Yeah, I won't even. I won't. Yeah, no.
No, I know you guys had to do so much work to that building when you first got
We
it.
did.
So, it's not. I know it's a sore subject. But Terry, who's in the room right now, she asks, what's the favorite beer that you've ever brewed? And I know you guys brew a lot of different beers, so that might be a difficult one.
Yeah, we're at 860 beers to date, something like that. So yeah, picking a favorite's like picking a favorite kid. But yeah, go ahead, Grant.
Yeah, I don't know. I get asked this a lot, and I don't ever really have a good answer. But I don't know. We cracked open one of Gregory's stouts the other day. It's just a big stout that was aged 2 years in Axon Oak barrel, and it's motor oil thick and super bourbony, and I'd say currently that's probably my favorite. And I think there's only like 4 cases left, so we should put that on sale soon.
Yes, Dad.
Yeah,
no, we have it stashed. We don't really know what we're going to do with it or how we're going to release it or anything else. But yeah, it doesn't suck. Hang on. That might be better. Now I don't know. I probably look better in the dark, but
the light just disappears right away.
Yeah.
So,
either way.
Here on the list of things. How many hours a week does Grant spend brewing?
all of them?
Yeah. It's usually close to 10-hour days, 5 days a week, so about 50 hours, I guess.
And you guys are keeping up even in the shutdown?
Yeah, I mean, all of our freezers are full, and we somehow lucked out. We made a bunch of sours and barley wines and stouts that are very ageable. So we made those before all this happened. So now we're just kind of sitting on them. But we're mostly doing just packaging right now. Not so much brewing here and there, but yeah, I say mostly bottling. Just bottling more because that's the only way we can get beer to people now is through bottles. So.
Right. It was nice to see a couple people in there when I stopped in earlier today.
Yeah, it's funny, a room like that's used to having so much energy and it feels so empty most of the time because there's only usually one customer at a shot. And they have to listen to me talk because I'm starved for like social interaction. But yeah, you were there tonight and there was a perfectly appropriate and legal sized crowd there.
There were 3 of us and we were 6 feet apart.
Right. No, to kind of piggyback on Grant's answer, one of the things that I think that's really fun about what we do that's different than a lot of small breweries is that, from the day that we started, Grant's job was to make kick-ass beer. And he's done that, but he doesn't have to do a lot of the other ancillary business stuff. So, the idea of like the brewer that is also your chef, that is also the tasting room manager, that is also your delivery driver, that is also your marketing person. That's kind of the plague of small breweries. We were able to really let Grant be the craftsman.
So I have a question. Since Hannigan proposed, we can jump in.
Please.
So kind of as a kind of extension of like favorite beer you guys have made. You guys have made a ton. What would you say is perhaps like the most like bizarre or off the cuff or kind of weirdly inspired of your beers that you like that comes to mind when you think of that?
I'd probably go with the Black Garlic Belgian. Our chef, I think it was like during Garlic Fest a year or 2 ago, and I never had black garlic before, so I just assumed it was disgusting. But I went to the Asian Pacific market and they had it, and I real like kind of Belgian candy flavor to it. It was kind of sweet, not super garlicky at all, really. So that was kind of the inspiration behind that one, and that was, I think, it's pretty out there.
Yeah. I generally measure out there-ness based on the reactions that we get across the bar. And the black garlic is a good example of that. Another good example, and I think we've made probably 3 or 4 different ones now, is beers with mushrooms in it. And not Josh Howard's like get you high mushrooms, but he only gets high on chilies.
We're gonna get to that story eventually for the.
I should have brought a bottle with me. I didn't think I have a stash of bottles over here, but I don't think that's one of them. No, we made 3 or 4 different mushroom beers. We were at one of my favorite breweries in the world, and if you guys haven't been there, you should go. Is Jester King in Dripping Springs, right outside of Austin. And I was down there. Gosh, we didn't even have the tasting room yet. I mean, we were probably only 3 or 4 months old, and they have a mushroom beer, and I tried it, and I was like, oh yeah, it's interesting, it's good, but it's not really like, it's kind of, I don't know, pretty normal for a mushroom beer. Like if you're gonna make a mushroom beer, you should like make a mushroom beer. And so I brought it back, bought a bottle, brought it back for Grant. We drank it together, and then he was he appreciated and respected the craft that went into it, but said like, oh man, we can totally beat this. And so we've made 3 or 4 different mushroom beers, and the reception that we get across the bar from people is that they're asking for tastes or putting stuff on flights or asking for our recommendations, and those are basically the beers that people always avoid. And it's like, no, here, try this, but we're not going to tell you what it is. And they try and they're like, holy shit, that's good. And then we tell them what it is, and they're just like totally blown away.
That's awesome. Thanks, guys.
Here's a question for Grant. I know you guys obviously brew quite a bit, excuse me, different stuff, but ask what your favorite beer, that you guys have made, but what is there a style that you like brewing or a particular flavor or some ingredient with a beer that you really like using when you're making stuff?
I'm a huge fan of Belgian. If I could desert island beer, only one style it would be Belgians for sure. Any kind of from saisons to quads, anything in between. I just think they've perfected it, and it's amazing and delicious. I don't know, like the weird stuff. I don't know. I think yesterday we made the aloe vera saison, and I've always said if we did have flagship beers, that'd probably be like one of them. It's super summery and delicious. So, but yeah, Belgians. I love Belgians.
I see you guys have jumped into the oenobeer pool, so to speak. I'm looking at a bunch of them here on your website right now. What do you think about that as a particular style? I know that we've recently lost Liberati, at least temporarily. I'm hoping to see them get back up somewhere, but you guys want to continue making those? Do you have a favorite of those that you've got on right now?
Yeah, I mean,
We
I
keep
love
throwing
the
around the
oenobeers.
favorite thing, and I'm sorry about that.
What's that?
I said we keep throwing around what's your favorite, this, that, and the other thing. I'm sorry.
No worries. Yeah, I think the style is just so like unique. Yeah, obviously Liberati did a fantastic job, and I don't see why we wouldn't keep making them. I don't think it's viable to rely solely on just oenobeers. But have one a couple every month or so. But yeah, probably my favorites. Probably the Chardonnay Wild wheat wine. That one was good. It was very layered. There was the wheat wine part. There was the sour or the wild, the funk to it, and then the Chardonnay, and it was one of my favorites for sure.
Yeah, I'm a fan of your wheat wine generally. So
Thanks. I think we have a couple more that are going to release soon.
There's a Belgian and a wheat wine. I forget. I don't remember what grape that one is.
It's the Montepulciano.
Okay. So that one will be out probably in the next week or two. Cheap, cheesy plug for memberships. Members get first crack at all those. So there may or may not be some left for the rest of you guys. Sorry, I'm nothing if not a businessman. Come on.
You have to do that. No, in this day and age, especially with everything being shut down, that's a great way to do it. So, can you just give a little more information about what members get? I mean, the memberships were sort of a thing that was big a couple of years ago, and I feel like they've died out a little bit, but yours has really kept on pretty strong. So, can you give a little more information on what members get and what they, why it's a great thing to be a part of?
Yeah, we were the first. There's this whole idea of like community supported brewery thing. I read it was a master's thesis for a proposed brewery in Michigan like 15 years ago that had that proposed as an idea, and it just always kind of stuck in my head, and that brewery never got off the ground. To my knowledge, we were the first in Colorado. We're now one of, I don't know, I guess probably one of several that have stuff like that going. So for us, it's kind of like CSA, like farm share style meets wine of the month club. As I suspect you all know, we make 200 beers a year. Members get one bottle each of Grant's 4 favorites that he bottles in any given month. So 4 bottles a month times 12 months is 48 bottles. Divided by 200 is basically 25%. So the top 25% of beers, the general public never even gets. They go out to members. The only way to get those beers is to be on that list, which we think is pretty fun. In addition to that, during the normal times, AD, after distancing, when we're back in the tasting room, as opposed to BC is before coronavirus. And we own a fucking church, so we can make those jokes. So when we're back to normal times, we have 18 beers on draft. We sell a bunch of flights, and we love pouring flights because our beers change all the time, and it's a chance to try something new every time. Flights normally are $9 for your choice of 4. Members get their first flight for free. That's literally every time you walk through the door. So it's a loss leader for us, but they're also the people that come in, that try all the new beers, that bring their friends in and show off their status, and go back to work the next day and talk about the cool, funky black garlic or mushroom beer or hazy IPA or whatever it was, and brag to all their friends about it. So they get early access to every beer that we release. We are, for the first time ever, and Grant is super excited. He's been hounding me for years on this, but we're getting ready to start releasing merch. But it's going to be super limited release, all designed in, or at least almost all designed in conjunction with artists. And so it'll all be limited run the same way our beers are. Members will get first crack at that. So what else? Discounted tickets to beer dinners. I mean, basically anytime we can think of a perk to throw at members, we do. Because, I mean, really all the time, but through all of this insanity especially, our members are helping to keep us afloat, and they... it would be, I'm certainly getting more gray hairs through this process, but I'd be getting a lot more gray hairs a lot faster if not for our membership.
That's awesome.
I just joined.
So
I'm a member.
Sorry.
You joined? That's awesome.
Right while you were talking.
Really?
Ah, sweet. That's awesome. You also get bonus points for the coolest backdrop.
I'm on the team.
So, well, that's awesome. Thank you, JL. Welcome to the family. Cheers.
So you guys obviously make so many beers with all these different flavors and different ingredients, and I was wondering if there are any beer and food pairings that you would recommend with your beers, or any beers you've made that you felt paired particularly well with certain foods.
I don't know. That's toughy. Just because there is such a variety. I don't know. I always say to Brent, our chef, that I do the beer dinners with. Like, if you have good food and good beer, you can't really go wrong. It's hard to fuck that up. But I don't know. I mean, I think you'd have to. A more specific example, I suppose, like, name a beer and I'll tell you something that I think would go with it, but I can't really say for all of the beers, you know.
Like what about your black garlic beer? I'm curious about.
Oh, that was pizza for sure. Any kind of pizza was delicious with black garlic. Yeah.
Yeah, I would answer that question not with a specific pairing, but sort of a philosophical intent behind our beer. So for those of you that don't know, I was a wine guy before I was a guy. I sold wine for the Broadmoor for a bunch of years. I'm a second level certified somm. I have like papers to hang on the wall and all kinds of shit to prove that I know shit. But really, like what I took out of the beer world, or what I took out of the wine world that I carried over to beer, is an appreciation just for the idea of old world beers and balance and nuance and complexity and layers of flavor. And part of why I love Grant mostly for his cool hats, but he also makes good beer. If I had to define our style of beer, it's that we don't have a style. But if you pushed me after that, I would say it's really embracing that kind of old world nuance and balance and complexity, and making beers that, as they sit in the glass and breathe, they evolve. As the temperature, as it warms up a little bit, they evolve. And just, from a food pairability perspective across the board, where we generally don't make IPAs that numb your tongue, or sours that rip your face off, or stouts that are like syrupy and sweet. And not that there's anything wrong with beers like that, but I think philosophically we're really intentional, and Grant does a brilliant job of making beers that are just kind of generally and genuinely pairable across the board.
Flip side of that, you guys ever had anything that you regret making? Something that was just like, yeah, let's not do that again?
I mean, I've had some batches that just didn't work out. Like I tried like a s'mores, and just because I used to do like 3 separate beers when I did it at like Rocky Mountain a long time ago. Sure you remember those days. But yeah, it was like the Hershey chocolate stout, and then the graham cracker golden, and the marshmallow cream ale, and like a smoked IPA. We'd mix them all together, but instead I tried putting all that stuff together, and it was just straight soy sauce. So I ended up dumping that one. But I'd say on a whole, like most everything works out. Honestly, I haven't really been too disappointed like with anything that we've tried before. Although my buddy, sorry.
No, go ahead, go.
Alex, old chops at Veterans, he wants to make a shrimp cocktail goza, and I just can't do it. It just sounds way too fucking gross. So, but he's still working every day trying to convince me to make a shrimp cocktail goza.
Sounds like
Yeah, I feel.
Well, it works.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
spaghetti goza from
Not
Wild
vegan.
Works.
Yeah, I've heard it. I never tried that one, but I did hear of it.
You don't want it. It's like a bad Bloody Mary.
See, I actually judged a tomato goza at a homebrew competition where they were using like they had crushed their own tomatoes and strained it, so it was really very light tomato, and it was really beautiful. It was actually a very well balanced, really interesting take on it. But they weren't very heavy-handed with the tomato. It was really, the tomato came out a little more in the aroma and not so much in the flavor. It's very clearly a goza.
Nice.
Yeah, so back in our early days, we made it was a split batch. It was in the old 10-gallon days when we first started. We made a tomato base beer. Half of it ended up on like horseradish and celery and black pepper and whatever else aging in fermenter as a Bloody Mary beer. The other half went on to like a lacto blend and ended up as a tomato sour. And they were both really good. There's only one beer that I regret Grant making, and he proved me wrong in the end. It was a kettle sour that we did like way early on. It was a pomegranate. I forget what it was, but it had this real sort of like Parmesan cheese thing to it. And Grant was like, "No, it'll come around. I promise. Like, just like give it time." And at like the 6-month mark and the 12-month mark and the 18-month mark and the 24-month mark, and we had started transitioning to stainless, and there's still like 2 plastic buckets in the corner with like plastic airlocks in them. And Grant's like, "No, really, I promise these will come around." And it ended up being like one of my. It did come around, and it ended up being one of my favorite beers. But
yeah,
I don't even remember what it was. There still might be. Yeah, there still might be a bottle of it in the cellar at the church. I don't know. But if there is, it's the very last bottle. I don't even remember what it is, but it ended up being beautiful. But the length of time we had to wait for the Parmesan cheese to fall away was, I almost gave up on it.
What do you think, like, as far as, and I know some things about brewing, but not like a ton, but like, what do you think it was that was causing that off flavor, and like what caused it to drop out, or what that process was? Like, just like what made you, Grant, think like just give it more time, trust me?
Yeah, it was isovaleric, which is acceptable in some sours and, you know, parts per million. It's real vomity kind of smelling, but yeah, the longer you leave it, it can dissipate after, you know, years. But it was only 5 gallons, so it wasn't taking up a whole lot of room. So I was like, you know, I hate dumping it, but it might turn around. And I didn't really know if it was going to be any good. It was just kind of out of the way, and it didn't really bother me. So I just left
science
it.
experiment, right? Like,
Yeah, just cross my fingers. Yeah.
Cool.
I have a question going back to I'm not pronouncing it right, the oenobeers, the wine beer hybrid. Can you give, because I don't really know a lot about the brewing process with them, can you give like a Cliff Notes version of what makes an oenobeer and what the brewing process is like and how it differs from one of your normal beers that you might brew?
I like that you put normal in quotes. Thank you.
Yeah.
That seems appropriate.
I know that you guys are so experimental, so it's I know that you don't have like a normal style or normal beer, but I think you know what I'm asking.
Yeah. I don't know how other people do it, but the way I do it is just make a normal beer, and then at the end of your boil, like during flame out, you just add grape must, and then you ferment the beer and the grape must together, and then it's pretty straightforward.
What's the
I think,
ratio on it? Does it have to be like 49-51?
I mean, that's the max for sure. It still has to be 51% beer. I know Liberati was pushing those boundaries with some of their, what was it? Was that port one that was like 51-49?
That was so good.
Yeah. My ratios are a little less, but just because the grape must is expensive, I'm trying to source local grape must from, there's that place in Canyon City. I think some church related vineyard or something like that. So
Holy Cross.
yeah, something like that.
Dude,
Grant, you may want to reach out to there's actually a winery up here in Evergreen that crushes all their own grapes and has their own vineyard.
Okay.
It's called Creekside Winery, and they may have stuff that you can use.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Can you put us in touch with them? Do you have a contact?
Yes, sir. I can absolutely. In fact, Fixie used to work there, so.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, so he may have a better contact than me even.
Cool.
But yeah, I was thinking like I said, they have their own vineyard, crush their own grapes right out in front, and it's pretty rad. So they may be able to hook you up.
Anyone else have any
So
questions?
what's your guys' philosophy on chili beers, and why is it fuck me?
You fucked yourself, man. You complain.
I regret nothing.
Chili beers are always hard. Like I'm a masochist, and I check Untapped way too much because that's the only time I ever get actual feedback, because I'm never at the church. And every time I make a chili beer, I swear to God, there's reviews like one right after the other, one saying like this isn't hot enough, and then the next one saying it's too hot. So I don't know. I can't please anybody, it sounds like, but
you can't win.
I can't win. But I try to.
So, like, when you're doing a chili beer, like, when do you add them?
Oh, usually at flame out, like the end of boil.
Okay.
So it kind of pasteurizes or kills anything that could be growing on the chilies.
For sure. I know, I've done a bunch of different chili beers over the years. I actually have acquired a few bung-sided kegs, which they're like, essentially they got a bung hole on the side, just like a wine barrel, but you can bung it up, and it's got a Sankey valve hookup.
Yeah.
But what I've been doing is I'm usually, depending, man, every crop year is hard, so you really can't judge. But
Sure.
I usually take the chilies and I fire roast them, and then I steam them in a bag to pull off all the skins, and then I rib and de-seed them, and then I chop them up and I throw them in a sanitized mesh sack, hot bag, and then I throw them in the bung hole, and then I just bung it up, and I fill the keg up with beer that's carbonated, and I just let it infuse.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, that's one way of doing it, obviously. And obviously fire roasting the chilies, you're burning, like if there's any bacteria or whatever, it's getting them off there.
Right.
I suppose that maybe gives you a chance to taste them too. You can kind of get an idea what heat level you're messing with
Right.
once
Because
you
like
process
just
it out.
throughout the weeks, I would taste it. And I'd be like, oh, cool, it's at this level. I would always add my favorite blend is like habanero, jalapeno, serrano, poblano, and a yellow and orange bell pepper
Yeah, and the bell
for
pepper,
15 gallons.
the bell peppers help to balance it with a little bit more sweetness
Yeah.
and not so much heat. Because I think that's part of the problem too. Is you see these people making like ghost pepper beers and all this, and that's just heat. You're not going to get any flavor, especially with an infusion of that. And so it was adding that complexity is nice. I personally love chili beers, but for me, it's all about the chili flavor, not the heat. And a few years ago, I had 3 clients plus Josh who entered chili beers in GABF, and so when they didn't win, I went and tasted them, and they were all just pure heat.
Yeah, one had ghost peppers, but what do you do with that?
Yeah. Well, yeah. The story with Josh was, I made a chili wheat sour, and I thought it was pretty hot. It had ghost peppers, and he complained that it wasn't hot enough. So the next year, I made the same beer, and I made it even hotter, and it was the in memoriam "Fuck You, Josh Howard" chili wheat sour.
True story.
That one,
I know, I had it. I had it. Remember when we did the tasting there?
Yeah, yes, you did have one.
That and the patchouli beer, which I may never forgive you for, but that's okay. I'll still buy your beer. I just won't forgive you.
Oh, yeah,
That's
I thought it was delicious.
Oh.
So
what else? I was gonna say, yeah. What else you guys got?
Trying to see who we have in here. I'm gonna try.
I don't want to ask all the questions, so I'm abstaining.
Yeah, Les Hannigan dropped the mute hammer on you.
Yeah. Damn, Mike Hogg. Hey Jeff, while we're waiting, I did just try to put in an order for some beer, and it told me I needed to call you.
Oh yeah, I need to fix the website because I have it set up to filter out only 809 zip codes, and I have to change that. So I could probably do it while we're talking. If I haven't learned to multitask at this point in running a tasting room, then I don't know what the fuck I'm good for.
We're
So
just
Jeff, I
waiting
got
for
a
you to
question
drop out of
about
the meeting
tasting
accident.
room. Sorry, Josh. So I got a question about the tasting room going forward. I saw you guys also like, other than the special stuff on your wall. There's the other corner of the big room that you've got you got licensing just today for, right?
Yeah, we got some shit up there on that wall.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. So I think I said this, or at least hinted at it before. Yeah. So we're sort of moving towards this kind of food hall idea. So Local Relic is the beer bar that's in one corner. We got our official licensing from the city today to convert our license to brew pub. So we will be legally allowed to offer wine and spirits. Nothing against the myriad breweries that also offer wine. Some of them do it really well. Some of them do it a little bit less intentionally. We really want to do it on purpose. And so we're launching kind of a whole separate brand for the wine bar. So it'll be in the opposite corner. It's called Crusade, which is kind of a fun play on a bunch of words. And, I feel like all of our brands sort of had that sort of tiptoeing around different ideas. But yeah, so the eventual vision for that, I think we're starting at probably 35 or 38 wines by the glass. The eventual goal is 50 wines by the glass. Focus on lesser known varietals or well-known varietals from lesser known regions. It's really going to be, there's a whole separate staff, a whole separate space for it. It's all in the main room, but it's kind of, if you've been in our space, it's kind of catty corner from it, from the beer bar. But the goal, the same way you can walk up to the beer bar and have intelligent conversations with people that can actually talk about the beers with you, instead of just having sort of the token, like, black box shard and black box cab behind the bar to keep the without stereotyping, like to keep the stereotypical wives happy. We really want to, give the same level of intentionality to the wine piece that we are to the beer piece.
That's awesome.
Jeff, can you talk about that? You said that Crusade was in it like an amalgam of different references. Can you talk about that some more?
So cru in French and French parlance kind of speaks to this idea of vintage, but depending on which wine geography you're talking about, it's also a demarcation of quality. So you talk about like Grand Cru or Premier Cru. So it sort of speaks to the idea, so you get that piece of cru that is wine verbiage. So we're bringing that into it. There's the idea of so I sold wine for one of the big resorts in town. You could guess which one, but I won't ever confirm or deny. But I spent a lot of time there really trying to figure out how to make wine approachable and make wine fun and make wine interesting. I wore a suit every day. Like my job title was sommelier, but the goal was never about, going to people and saying, oh, well, if you don't have $100 a bottle budget, then I won't help you. It's going to people and saying like, okay, sure. You want to spend $10 a glass off the glass list. I'll help you find something that you love. Or if you want to spend $300 a bottle, I'll help you find something that you love too. And so I spent a lot of time working to make wine approachable. Now I'm sort of on the other end of that stick by several measures, where we're taking wine, which is taking beer, which has always been the sort of everyman drink and, good for sitting on the front porch or, good for, chugging on your riding lawnmower. And we're working to elevate it and, try to, we talked about food pairability earlier, just kind of raise the expectations of what beer can be. I know Airman's sitting down there on mute, not chiming in, but we took a fuck ton of inspiration from you guys. You guys make some brilliant shit. And there's a bunch of other, a bunch of other breweries that are also doing really cool, really innovative, kind of pushing the craft. And so I went from this world where I take wine and try to make it approachable to now sit on the beer side and try to make a highbrow. And so there's an element of kind of crusade. I don't know. I guess that was a long way to tell that story. Sorry.
No, I appreciate it because I don't know anything about wine.
Yeah,
so I didn't know that cru meant anything.
Yeah, and so there's that piece of it. There's the idea of, we're really on a crusade. While we're trying to elevate the craft of beer, we're also trying to take wine and make it approachable. And then the last piece is just sort of like the fun tongue-in-cheek piece, which is like we're serving wine in an old church, and it's, it has the whole like kind of medieval kind of crusades. I guess it's post-medieval. I'm not a history major, but the whole idea of like the crusades.
Okay. Are you guys still going to have immersive cuisine in there with you?
Yeah, so Immerse is staying. They are, for those of you that haven't had their food, they're kind of upscale Colorado meets like contemporary bar food meets farm to table restaurant. And then we have a second restaurant that's opening in that space as well that we haven't announced yet. We're still finalizing some of the branding on it, but it's kind of a different direction from Immerse, but equally cool.
So you have 2 restaurants in there?
To call them like full-scale restaurants is probably a little grandiose, but yes, two restaurant concepts.
Cool.
So we took some inspiration. If you've been to like Denver Central Market or Avanti or kind of those kind of places, the kind of food hall concept, we've drawn a lot of inspiration from those. The original conversation was really about trying to build a restaurant incubator, and we're still doing that, but not a little more focus on restaurant and a little less focus on incubation.
To sort of bring everything back to beer, when you guys aren't drinking your own beer, what's your go-to What's your go-to beer?
I'm currently drinking an Outer Range Steezy with Wyatt E.T.
You hit up
Threw
that
my can away,
Range
but good choice.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just I mean, this is kind of why we started this concept of not making the same beer twice, is because I always like to try whatever's new. So I don't really have like a go-to. But yeah, just anything new, anything cool, or some of the classics, any kind of old Belgians, stuff like that.
Awesome. Jeff?
For me, my goal is to drink all of the beers. So if I go into any brewery in town, I'm going to get whatever their seasonal is or whatever their limited release is. If I walk into a place that has 8 beers that I know and a 9th beer that I don't, even if the 9th beer is completely not the style I want to drink, I'm still going to order it and drink it anyway. Because my goal is to have tasted every beer there is. And obviously that's a losing battle, but it's part of why I have so much fun doing what we're doing. And it's, there are lots of breweries I love and lots of beers that I love, but I would rather, like, given the choice between drinking a beer I love or a beer I've never had before, I'd pick the new beer every time.
That's awesome. So we got a couple of new faces in here. Anyone else have some questions?
I was also wondering if I could get like the spark notes of my question that they answered when I wasn't here yet.
Oh yeah, her question was about how your building influences your brand.
I don't want to make everybody else listen to the same answer again, but no, it's all good. But no, I think that Ryan is recording. Yes.
Yeah, we're recording.
Maybe. Okay. Yeah. So that's an option. Or hit me up offline and we can chat about it. Heaven knows I'm not shy about talking about ourselves.
Logan, you got any questions?
I know he's been so quiet down there. It's not like him.
Stop it. Hey, I will have plenty of questions, but for right now.
That's like a tiny Logan. We need a bigger Logan. You're so tiny.
Said no one ever. Come on, Ehrman.
Thank you.
There we go.
I didn't even know it was him.
Shoot. You guys know
Yeah,
hey, I have plenty to say, but I'm sitting back, which is hard for me, but I'm sitting back.
You have the floor to ask a question. Go for it.
For half a second, I thought he had like the Tiger King stash going on there, but
I am. Is that Mike?
No, it's Josh.
That was Howard.
Was that Josh?
Yeah.
So you know what? Honestly, okay. Yeah. You unleashed the beast now, Ryan, because
I can mute you if I need to.
We just wanted a question. This is Meet the Brewer. Ask a question for these guys.
Well, I guess my question is, it's like, the thing is, I love what you guys are doing. Small batches, small everything. One of the things that caught me, what I love, like a lot of people are doing things for first responders, everything, and which is great, but you put in frontline employees, and like I'm considered a frontline employee, and like normally people don't consider that. It's like normally they consider the frontline employees the firefighters, the nurses, the doctors, which is great. I love that, but there's the people that work at the grocery store that they don't get the notoriety they should, that they're there every day, doing what they do and putting themselves just as much risk as, the firefighter or the doctor or the nurse.
So he told you to ask a question. That wasn't a question, but I'm just giving you shit. I know, right?
Props here,
Well, thank you. No, that's awesome. Thank you. So to catch the rest of you guys up, we were planning on announcing it on Sunday, and I had like a spare 2 hours today, so we ended up launching it today. But we're doing a thing called Liquid Love Notes. And so we had 2 different individuals, both are members, come out and say, hey, we would love to buy some beers. You know, we're just like sort of talking around this idea. And both of them ended up saying that they wanted to help kind of contribute to this idea to support us in supporting frontline people. And so we rolled it out today. So if you are as Logan says, if you're a frontline employee, if you're somebody that is getting, you know, walking out of your house intentionally on purpose to go out and interact with the public because your job requires you to, you're putting yourself at risk. And so we want to honor those people that are going out and doing the shit they have to do to feed their families or to keep their businesses operating or whatever it may be. And so those frontline employees can come in and get a free bottle. For those people who are not frontline employees who want to buy bottles to give away, we have a method to do that. But the piece of it that I think is most fun and that I'm most proud of is that we printed labels that have like the very bare minimum for what we need. So it doesn't have it, and I should have brought one with me. It doesn't have the background on it. It doesn't have, like, it's super sparse. It has the government warning. It has that the fact that we made it, and, you know, just like the very bare stuff with a big old blank spot in the middle. And we're inviting either people who come into the tasting room to buy bottles can write out a thank you note on the label to give to those people, or for the people who are buying them online, they can put in the order notes what they want their thank you note to say, and we're handwriting it on the label. So I wrote about 40 of them today. I have about another 70 or 80 of them to write tomorrow.
Wow.
But, you know, because for me, that's the really cool piece. It's like, oh, hey, sure, come in and get a free beer. Like, well, that's cool. We're giving beer to you. But, you know, to me, giving you a free beer doesn't really say thank you as much as, you know, the fact that either I've written it or our customers have written it saying, like, no, like, y'all are out there doing, like, you guys are out there doing it. You're out, like, in the mix, interacting with the public, and we appreciate it and thank you. And nothing says that like having it actually written in Sharpie with, like, real human hands.
And Jeff, I think that's amazing because, you know, a lot of people don't think about those people. Like, they just get overlooked in the frontline employees as, you know, like I said, the nurses and stuff like that. It's like, you know, those people are still going out there every single day, and they're getting no notoriety from it at all, nothing. And it's like, I go to my grocery store and I see the same people that I'm like, dude, you're the real winner right now. You're the real MVP for, you know, giving me my groceries, because without you, I wouldn't get them, you know?
Well,
yeah,
it's a really good point too, because like there are people like my coworkers, like our rangers and our wildlife officers who are still out there, like they're working 100+ hours a week, and they're out there interacting with the public and dealing with, in most cases recently, very angry people who, you know, because when they have to interact with someone, they're not happy with why they have to interact with them, and they're so forgotten about. And so I appreciate what you guys are doing to recognize the folks who maybe aren't in the forefront of people's minds, that are having to deal with people every day, and it's scary and it's hard and it's dangerous.
Well, I was going to say, Dev, please send them our way, because they deserve a beer.
I mean, not only that, it's like, you know what? We know so many small businesses applying for, you know, the payment protection program. You know, honestly, like, I went from salary to hourly, and I'm working around the clock, and I literally took off like 3 hours just to drink some beers before I get back and process more loans. And it's like,
don't tell your boss that.
I mean, the thing is, like, you know, 2 beers is not going to kill me. But it's like, the thing is, like, people don't think about that. It's like the people that are processing and doing everything to support small businesses, they don't think about that. It's, you know, we're trying to help everybody. And, you know, literally, I'm going to wake up tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning, jump on, and try and process as many loans as I can to help everybody. So, frontline employees is very broad, I guess.
Yeah, and it's not on purpose. I don't want to be the arbiter of who's out there kicking ass and who's not.
No, exactly. No, I definitely agree. But the grand scheme of things, they like to like I said, put in the more medical workers in it.
All right, we're gonna wrap up this the Meet the Brewer part of this thing and get to the after party. Does anybody have a final wrap up question for Jeff and Grant?
Yeah, I was just wanting to say, Jeff and Grant, this isn't a question though, but I read your email today, and I love that you guys are like, just hooking up first responders, and like me, one of the breweries I work for, Locavore, I deliver beer for them. So it's like I'm definitely interacting with a lot of people as well. Just like if you work grocery stores, I mean, you interact with way more people. But it's awesome that you guys are hooking up peeps that are like, hey man, we're out here still. We got to work. We got to make some money, and we're actually being way more exposed to this shit than other people. So just thanks, guys.
Yeah, well, and generally those are the people who are interacting with more people with fewer protections. And less access to face masks, and they're also people generally that are making less money. And so, I mean, it's not all about income, but at the end of the day, you can't take goodwill to the bank. And so, for us, it's I mean, thank you to Josh and to Logan both for acknowledging that. We're really intentional about it, and we're proud of it. And we wouldn't be where we are if not for the community around us. And so, it's a chance when everybody in the community is trying to pull together and try to figure out how to make it through together. We're a tiny piece of that, but the world is a happier place with beer in it. And if we can help make people's lives happier by putting some beer in it, we feel good about being a part of that.
Beer saved the world before. Maybe it will this time too.
Truth. Don't drink the water, drink the beer.
Exactly.
Hell yeah, just load yourself up with a bunch of alcohol and it'll probably kill COVID. I don't know.
Liquid courage.
So with those love notes, is it you just choose any beer and you just say, I just want to leave this here for the next frontline worker? Or?
Yeah, so if you're coming into the tasting room, we're letting you, if you want to write your label, we have a fleet of frequently sanitized Sharpies. You can write your own label, pick which beer you want to put it on, and we'll put it on that beer. A lot of the people that are buying online are, rather than go through the logistical nightmare of making them pick specific bottles, we just set a discounted price and just let them buy a discounted price, and then we go through and pick the beer. So we're doing our best in the tasting room just to make it kind of a broad selection of beers, so that if you walk in and you like Belgians, or you like stouts, or you like IPAs, or you like fruit beers, or you like sour beers, or whatever, our goal is just to, as we continue to replenish that table, just to have it a good variety of beers. Because if all we have is IPAs and you're a frontline employee and you walk in and you hate IPAs and that's all you can get for free, then it's not going to brighten your day that much.
Hey, Jeff.
So a frontline employee would walk in and say, hey, I'm a frontline employee. What do I have to choose from?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. So I misunderstood your question. So for the people that want to buy beers to give to frontline employees that come into the tasting room, we're letting them pick. For people who are frontline employees, we have a whole table full of just kind of random beers.
Okay.
That all have those thank you notes handwritten on the labels. So you get to look through that whole table. I think there's, something like 30 different beers on there to choose from. So read through all of them, pick the note that you like, that you want to, keep on your desk that kind of speaks to you, or find the beer that calls to you, or whatever. I mean, pick whatever one you want. It doesn't matter to me. I want you to enjoy the experience.
Cool. And you didn't misunderstand my question. I asked both.
Perfect. Okay.
Well, we're gonna stop this here, and we're gonna get on to the. I'm just stopping the recording. We're not leaving. No one's gonna leave anything. But I just wanted to say thank you to Jeff and Grant for being here and for talking to questions.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, guys.